Jamie, show me your hands. Do it now. Do not run from me. Straight ahead. Jamie, put your hands up. Coming neck. Jamie, stop running. "103, if you want to stop and go up by the road." I think he's trying to make it back to the road.
We are go for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, I want to say that we just introduced you to Jami Lucas, but we didn't introduce you to Jami Lucas. We introduced you to the last person who saw Jami Lucas alive on July 3rd of 2020. So nearly 6 years ago. Well, allegedly. For those of you that are just tuning in, I am TC. This is MBRR Media. I am the host, founder, originator, showrunner. I am the craft services. So I bring myself my own beverages and food for my show and for all my guests when I have guests on the show. But I really appreciate everyone being here and tuning in. I know it's a weird time on a Sunday. A little bit behind when I said the show was going to start, but that's fine. This is not going to be super long because while the story of Jami's disappearance is long, hey, Skipper's here. Skipper, look. Thank you, Skipper. Much appreciated. I hope you're sharing this out, and I hope everybody else is watching as well. So super chats are always thankful. I got some bills to pay in particular, and so this super chat will help with that. So anyway, I really appreciate everybody being here, channel members, channel subscribers, regular viewers. Those of you that have been following Hello End All Immunity. For those of you that have been following, I have been covering multiple stories over time about different levels of law enforcement corruption, law enforcement neglect, law enforcement nefarious activities. We've been most recently covering the case of Blake Mosted and how he and his brother Braxton were nearly killed by a Minnesota State Trooper 1 year ago this month. But I have been aware of this story of Jami Lucas for some time, quite some time actually. And I been sitting on. I've talked about it. I've talked about what happened to Jami a little bit, but not been into much detail. In fact, Skipper knows I've been talking about this with Skipper, um, we covering this because of how important it is. And the reason that I call Jami Lucas the perfect victim is because on the evening, and as you saw with the dash cam, and or not the dash cam, but the body cam of the deputy involved, on the evening of July 3rd, in that 8 o'clock time frame, Jami disappeared. He disappeared. He just flat out just gone. And to say that the search for Jami was anything other than lackluster, not in reference to the esteemed Police Accountability Channel lackluster, but to say that the search for Jami was anything other than lackluster is probably the most understated comment I've ever made in my life. Jami Lyle Lucas was the perfect victim because the law enforcement of Cass County, Minnesota knew that the only people that cared about Jami were his family members and a few very select friends. And I say that because, see, Jami is one of those people that society casts off. Jami had a storied criminal history. Having been in the law enforcement career field as a deputy in a detention center for nearly 13 years, I saw people with much longer records than what Jami Lucas had. Let's just be honest with you. Much longer, much more violent, much more dangerous, much more a threat to society. But Jami had a record. Almost everything that Jami had on his record stemmed from his addiction problem. And for the most part, his drug of choice was methamphetamine. If I remember all of it correctly, I'm sure there were other things. But Jami had some felonies. He had a domestic assault charge. He had a felony terroristic threats charge. And so when Jami disappeared on the night of July 3rd of 2020, Jami was a perfect victim. So even if your conclusion is that law enforcement did nothing wrong that night and Jami was the sole creator of his own problems, maybe your view is Jami is a perfect example of FAFO, the freak, flip around and find out. Perhaps that's your perspective. The reality is that law enforcement spent no time actually switching from enforcing law, catching a criminal, to we need to find this young man. And the reason that this is important is that the Cass County, Minnesota area is dense, marshy, wooded, and rural. And when that deputy chased Jami into the woods, and we're not going to even mention the deputy's name right now. We're going to get to all the deputies involved in the next episode. But when that deputy chased Jami into the woods that night in July of 2020, July 3rd of 2020, he was chasing him to his death. Make no mistakes. He was chasing a young man to his death. And he was the last man that saw Jami alive. Since July 3rd of 2020, Jami has not been seen. He has not been heard from. He hasn't so much as sent a text message to a family member. Not for that night. He hasn't sent an email, a private message to anyone in the days following. No one has heard from Jami, not once, since this night. He went into the woods just outside of Outing, Minnesota in Cass County, and he disappeared. David Pilatus of Missing 411 hasn't wanted to talk about him. Missing Enigma hasn't talked about him. The Lore Lodge hasn't talked about him. He's been gone for 6 years. And all of your standard missing person channels haven't talked about him. Only one podcast, audio podcast, has talked about Jami that I've been able to find. And, you know, credit to that podcast for talking about him. But the only reason any attention is being put on Jami right now is because of one person who I have spoken to, that I have messaged with on multiple occasions. Her name is Tanda. I'm probably saying her first name wrong, but that's fine. She'll correct me about that later. Only one person has kept this story going that's not a direct family member. And direct family members are even divided because his mother wants to know where he is. She wants resolution to this case. She wants to know where Jami is. She wants to know what happened to him. She wants answers from law enforcement. She wants answers from Jami's girlfriend / fiance. She wants answers from Jami's nephew. She wants answers from others. And law enforcement has said they believe that Jami is still alive and he's in hiding. The Cass County Sheriff's Office has stated that Jami went missing that night, not because he's missing, but because he went into hiding and he ran off to go be with his brother down south somewhere. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a cover-up to me. But for those of you that weren't here to see the pre-opening opening, we're gonna show you Jami again. We're gonna show you what the last minutes of Jami's life look like. This is body cam footage from the deputy that was chasing him.
Jami, come on now with your hands up! Hey, show me your hands! One at gunpoint, white shirt. Jami, show me your hands now! You come on!
I want to point out too that, and we're going to do body cam breakdown of this, but I want to point out that what this deputy just did here was a blatant lie. One at gunpoint. He didn't have Jami at gunpoint. If he had Jami at gunpoint, we'd be able to see Jami. What you are seeing here is the beginning of this deputy's only body cam footage that we have from that night. He has his weapon drawn, but he doesn't have Jami at gunpoint. And the other question remains is, what about this situation would make this deputy draw his firearm in this moment? There are, and we'll cover this in future episodes. We'll go into depth. I'm going to be writing some essays that revolve around law enforcement actions as it revolves around this story. But there are bodies of court decisions and policies and procedures and standards and use of force continuums that talk about the use of lethal force or even the threat of lethal force in moments like this, and whether or not lethal force can be applied to a suspect in moments where they're fleeing. So why does this deputy have his firearm out? We don't know. But we do know he has his firearm out, and we do know that he's just stated over the radio in an official record, one at gunpoint, which is patently, demonstrably, and observably untrue.
Oh no! Jamie, show me your hands. Do it now.
Where is Jamie?
Do not run from me.
And that's the key right there. This deputy has his, I'm sorry, you may not like my narrating here or my editorializing, but this deputy has his firearm out because Jamie's running and he doesn't want to chase him. He pulled his firearm just because he didn't want to chase Jamie. The question is, deputy, is that legal? Is that lawful? Is it lawful to pull your firearm and prepare to use it on somebody because you don't want to chase them? We're going to answer that question in future episodes. We'll answer that question in an essay breakdown that I'll do on this. Is it lawful to pull your firearm because you don't want to chase someone? Down a street, through an apartment building, through a cluttered and busy retail center, or into the woods? Is it lawful to pull your firearm because you don't want to chase someone? What is required of law enforcement when pursuing someone and presenting lethal force? What's the requirement?
Straight ahead. Jamie, put your hands up.
And also, let's just go back here a minute. Watch how this guy is running through the woods with the drawn firearm. Let's just talk about tactics here. Any of you ever been in the military? Any of you been trained in tactics? Anybody been trained in firearm safety? Does this look safe? Because this raises questions. Not just about the deputy's safety, but about Jamie's safety.
Straight ahead. Jamie, put your hands up.
It's a miracle. And so we do know this. He did not trip and fire on himself or any other law enforcement officer. That's a miracle. It's a miracle that he didn't trip and hurt himself. I'm emphasizing it's a miracle that he didn't trip and hurt himself or anybody else on his team. This man is not qualified to be a cop. Well, in Minnesota, maybe he is. Okay, maybe across the United States. But how in the world did he not fall down and shoot himself or have an accidental discharge? Or did he have an accidental discharge?
Coming back. Jamie, stop running. "103, if you want to stop and go up by the road." I think he's trying to make it back to the road.
What's the reality here? What's the truth? Thing is, we don't know the truth. We know that Jamie's missing. We know that Jamie's never been found. We know that Jamie's mother, who I'm planning on trying to bring on for at least a brief conversation, and I will be having Tanda on for a conversation as well, because Tanda is the driving force behind this. Tanda is the one who's kept hope in resolving Jamie's case alive. What we know is that Jamie's gone off into the ether, off into the whatever. And the official position of the Cass County Sheriff's Office is that he just ran off. He's in hiding somewhere. But we don't know the truth. We don't know the facts. We know the narrative, and there's a difference. There's a massive difference between knowing a narrative and knowing the truth. We know that law enforcement were the last ones to see Jamie alive. Right? We know that because it was after this video. And there again, in the next video, we're going to break down this deputy's body cam. And then the video after that will break down the other deputy's body cam. And after breaking down those videos, we're going to have a conversation about dash cams and body cams and police activities those nights. But we do know for a fact that the last people that saw Jamie confirmably, that we can confirm, demonstrably true, not subjectively, the last time, as End All Immunity is saying in the chat, we know the last time he was seen is that he was being hunted down like an animal by multiple people. Men with guns and badges and the authority of the state to do violence on part of the state were chasing a man through the woods of Cass County, Minnesota, just outside of Outing, Minnesota, near Beltrami. They were chasing a man, as End All Immunity said, like an animal. Chasing the man like an animal. Pursuing him like they were on a safari. And he was never seen again. He was never seen again. He was never heard from again. And no one wanted to talk about it. No one cared to be upfront about it. No one cared to be honest. Because Jamie's expendable. Jamie's a throwaway. Jamie had a meth habit. Jamie was currently in recovery. Jamie had previous charges. Jamie had done some violence in a domestic situation. Jamie had made terroristic threats in the past. Jamie had a record. Jamie was on probation. Jamie was a criminal, and Jamie was a loser. And therefore, we don't have to spend any godforsaken time going after the truth. We don't have to find Jamie because Jamie's not deserving to be found. Jamie's not worthy to be found because no one cares about Jamie. Because you polite members of society have all been conditioned to think that if the cops tell you someone ran away and that they're missing, they must be missing, because cops wouldn't lie. Cops wouldn't do 84 miles an hour in a cruiser on a city street and murder an 18-year-old girl in Minnesota. Cops wouldn't be doing 130 miles an hour down a freeway at night in April and looking for the reported wrong way driver that had just caused an accident that no one in law enforcement knew about, and thereby paralyze a young man. No deputy, no cop, no law enforcement agent in Southeast Minnesota, in Rochester, Minnesota, no Rochester, Minnesota cop would be busted in a child predator sting. No deputy in Olmsted County, Minnesota would ever be busted in a child predator ring by a former criminal. by a former convict and turned in to Rochester, Minnesota Police Department, who did nothing about it but to tell the sheriff, who then did nothing about his deputy. And then for a year and a half, that deputy would go on and victimize countless underage girls for over almost 2 years. That would never happen, right? That doesn't happen. Cops don't do that. Cops don't lie. Cops don't violate the laws. Cops don't hurt people needlessly. Cops don't chase people for petty misdemeanor offenses through heavy traffic on July 3rd weekend near one of the deepest lakes in the region, based on a subjective call from a buddy over the radio. Hey, I just saw Jami Lucas on a motorcycle and I know that he doesn't have a driver's license. Can we get somebody to chase him? As he observed him pass by? See, cops wouldn't fabricate reasons to go after somebody just because they apparently or allegedly recognize them, right? Cops wouldn't fabricate. Cops wouldn't chase this person. No. Hey, should Jami have run? No. Like, a cop pulls in behind you. If you got a record and you're on probation or parole, pull the F over, right? Just pull over. As my dad taught me when I was young and I was driving, he says, if you're speeding and a cop pulls in behind you, pull over because you can't outrun a radio. Like, just pull over. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth running. It's also not worth disappearing someone. Or, excuse me, it's not worth disappearing. See, cops don't do excessive things, right? No cop would ever use excessive lethal force, say on a woman in Southern Illinois when she's clearly having a mental health issue and with a smile says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And no cop would ever use lethal force to delete you with a round to the melon. That would never happen, right? That would never happen. I mean, no cop in Minnesota would ever shoot a man, Philando Castile, when the man says, hey, I am a licensed to carry, I have a permit to carry my firearm, and I have my firearm on me. No cop, Geronimo Yanez, no cop would ever tell you, go ahead and grab that permit and your ID for me, and then when you go to grab your permit and your ID, shoot you. No cop would ever do that to a Philando Castile. No cop in Minnesota, Deputy Chris Flatten, would ever be working in the city of Wilmer, Minnesota several years ago and wrongfully identify a man and say that the man has a warrant, and then when he knows the man and recognizes the man, still calls in the Violent Crimes Task Force, and then they gang stalk you, and then all of them jump out of their undercover squads and regular squads and beat the brakes off of you and then throw you in jail for resisting an arrest. That would never happen. And then when the lawsuit comes, you wouldn't quietly leave the Wilmer County or the Wilmer City Police Department and very quietly get hired on by the Kendi Ojai Sheriff's Office in Minnesota, the same county that sent deputies to help you beat the brakes off of this man. That would never happen, right? That would never happen. Only to then have Deputy Chris Flatten, shortly after he was hired by the Kendi Ojai County Sheriff's Office, get drunk on duty and drive in his squad, and eventually, thank the good Lord, not hurt anybody, but wreck his squad, doing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage to equipment and property. Oh, and by the way, no deputy would, earlier than in that afternoon before this accident happened, no deputy would smell the alcohol on your breath and not say anything, and then admit on video or on audio to investigating trooper that I've smelled it before, but always, never did anything about it. No one would ever, that would never happen. That would never happen. So whatever happened to Jami Lucas this night, whatever happened to Jami Lyle Lucas this night on July 3rd of 2020 was all Jamie's fault because he was a criminal. And when you around and find out, that's on you. That's on you. When you F around and find out, that's on you because you're a criminal. You're on probation. You're on parole. You're the dirt slime of Cass County, and you deserve whatever happens to you. You've got complicated relationships. You do drugs. You've got a record. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to get your life together. It doesn't matter if you're trying to stay clean. None of that matters. You've got a record, and we can make you You can run away from us, and we could chase you with our guns out, even though you've never assaulted cops. You've never been an actual threat to law enforcement. We can treat you like you're a fleeing violent felon who's about to hurt us. And then you can just disappear. You could just disappear. Or we can say he ran away. He fled to another state where he's hiding 6 years later. Oh, and he's never talked to his kids. Hasn't reached out to talk to anybody that he loves. He just abandoned them. And society will believe it because the Jami Lyle Lucases of society, they're sleazy. They're dirtballs. They do that kind of stuff. They don't love their kids. They love their addiction. They love their problems. They love living in the shadows. They love not being able to get a job. They love not having money. They love having to hide. They love being paranoid. They love that. They love that more than they love their children. They love that more than they love their mom and their family members. And hey, don't get me wrong. Some of them are bad. But sometimes people make bad decisions, but they deserve justice. They're family members. Even if you don't care about Jami Lyle Lucas of Cass County, Minnesota, his mama deserves to know what happened to him. She deserves to have his body. She deserves to have his remains brought to her so she can say goodbye and lay him to rest. Because no man like Jami Lucas goes missing for 6 years without a word to his mama. Not one. Local media is not going to cover this. Because as a friend, someone I know said, it's just not the right demographic. You saw his picture in the thumbnail of this, I'm sure. But if you didn't, let me pull it up for you. You see, Jami was a man in his 30s that had had a lot of struggles. Made some mistakes. But he loved passionately and he loved deeply, and we will be talking about that. To see the kind of sacrificial love that Jami Lucas gave and the things that he endured despite all of his failings and all of his problems. Despite his criminal history, despite his criminal record, despite his problem with addiction, Jami loved. And he loved intensely. And he has been betrayed. He's been betrayed by the very system that should have been concerned for him the most. And what I want, what this platform wants, what my friend Skipper wants, what Tando wants, what others that I'm associated with, and what we're working towards is we want the truth. We just want to know, where's Jami? What happened to him? And why won't you tell us? Why won't you tell the family? That's all they want. And that's all we're aiming for. And as people like to tell me all the time now that I talk about these things and I defend people who have interactions with law enforcement that go south, well, if you don't want to have bad interactions with law enforcement, don't do things that are going to have you involved with law enforcement. If you don't have anything to hide, why not tell the truth? If you don't have anything to hide, why not talk? So, to the Cass County Sheriff's Office, to the deputy who saw him last, and to all the other deputies that were involved with chasing him that night, if you don't have anything to hide, if you don't have anything to be worried about, why won't you talk? Why did you alter your reports? Where's all the body cam footage? Where is it? Why do we only have about 15 minutes of a night involving a chase that went on for a few miles and went on for quite a few moments? If you don't have anything to hide, why aren't you talking? If you don't have anything to worry about, what's going on? Why won't you tell us? Where's the transparency? That's the real question. And that's what this series is going to be about. We want to figure out and find out what happened to Jami. Even if it's hard. Even if it's painful. We want the truth. And if there's someone responsible for him disappearing, no matter who it is, we want to be able to talk about it. But right now, you just leave us in a position where all we can do is ask logical questions and hope that it leads to the reality of finding Jami. Because Jami deserves it. His loved ones deserve it. He just disappeared into these woods.
at gunpoint, white shirt. Jamie, show me your hands now! You come out now! Jamie, show me your hands! Do it now! Do not run from me! Straight ahead! Jamie, put your hands up! Coming back. Jamie, stop running! "103, if you want to stop and go up by the road." I think he's trying to make it back to the road.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.